It's often said of poets that they paint pictures with words. Ed Ruscha, an artist, paints words into his pictures, words and other icons of a certain place and a certain time. The place is Los Angeles. The time is now. Jerry Bowen sketches Edward Ruscha.
I can't tell you why I make a certain work or what it is that moves me about it, except that there's a kind of an urging that, there's kind of a necessity and an urging that kind of demands a completion of the thing. It's sort of like waking up in the morning and saying, why am I an artist? You know? I mean, it's just not a question that I really ponder. So I'm kind of like a picture smith, you know, where I just feel like, well, today I've got to do this, and I feel like maybe I'll paint a gas station today. I think every artist is sort of a variation on a theme, and the themes begin with some kind of initial response to the world, and mine happened to come in the form of maybe, say, letter forms and the art of printing and photography and mass media rather than painting itself. So those tools and those key things will always be part of my work.
Someone once observed that what Audubon is to birds, artist Ed Ruscha is to Los Angeles, the perfect chronicler of that elusive city. He left Oklahoma City 25 years ago, a kid in a customized Ford, and drove west to study commercial art in the land of Walt Disney. He ended up unhappy as a commercial artist, but obsessed with commercial symbols. For his generation, they were the new icons of the American landscape.
I was trying to somehow say heroics, in a sense, and that's what it meant to me. That's what California meant to me. It meant all those things, not just, I'm not necessarily saying movies as such, but this symbol was so dramatic and so simple that it became heroics to me, in the same way that, say, maybe an artist like the English artist Landseer might have painted the picture of the monarch of the Glen. It's called the monarch of the Glen, which is a big elk standing, you know, proud like this. And so, in a sense, this was the same thing. I was doing the same thing. A loaf of bread could also be heroic. A standard station could also be heroic, and so could a burning museum of art.
He's been called a surreal cowboy for paintings like this one, the Los Angeles County Museum on fire. Flames consume a considerable amount of his subject matter. Some critics call them hellfires, a vision of Los Angeles. Ed Ruscha says they're just part of the territory.
I was attracted to the to the glamour and the paranoia of the place, the paranoia of glamour and the glamour of paranoia. And also there's a certain kind of decadence to this lifestyle here, which is kind of like a instant living, instant lifestyle that was really curious.
What first brought Ruscha to public notice was not his paintings, but his books, like the one folded out the length of this case, called Every Building on the Sunset Strip, a photographic strip of just that. Or this one, his first and most famous, a deadpan catalog of, that's right, 26 gasoline stations along Route 66.
What inspired you to do this? As I understand at the time, it was...
Blind faith, I think, is what actually inspired me to do this. I felt like I was almost like a news reporter. And as I traveled along, I just, gathered the facts and brought them back here to Los Angeles.
Do you have one favorite, or are they all Our
I would
children,
say,
no favorites, all
I
work.
would say this 26 Gas Stations was the first book that I did, and for that reason it sort of had a purity to it, you know, that some later things didn't. After a while I became making another book.
I can catch the moon in my hand. Don't you know who I am? Remember my name. Say, I'm gonna live forever.
There's something new world about this place that is untapped. I mean, it's still here to be utilized, and there's source material here, whereas source material in New York is comes from Europe or something. You know, it's set. The buildings are built. There's no more room. There's no, you see? It seemed like Los Angeles was somewhat of an extension of Oklahoma in many ways, except the lifestyle here was much more romantic. And it seemed like the East Coast to me was like, maybe like, tried to picture myself walking backwards to New York, you know. It seemed cold and kind of intellectual, and it seemed almost like fiction as opposed to science fiction, which got me out here, I think.
In the 1970s, Ruscha created what some call his free-floating non sequiturs, a series of word pictures which mean everything and nothing.
I don't know how words became so important to me. It's not even my job to pump life into them, you know. I use them as I do, and sometimes they really have no meaning. I mean, it would be unlawful for me to try to explain to you, because I would only confuse and muddle the issue.
Ruscha aspires to innocence, but it's the innocence of a poker player holding a pat hand. Back in 1979, he painted I Don't Want No Retrospective in pastels. By 1982, he had just that, a retrospective show that would travel to 5 cities.
This is the kind of thing she'd want to do for Miami. You know what I mean? Except she would have like palm trees or something.
His most recent paintings are long horizontal strips that are less comic, more cosmic.
How seriously should one take your work?
Well, enough to know that the artist himself is means business. And whatever response it can elicit, then great. If a person laughs at one of my paintings, then maybe I've achieved something. I've reached someone.